Welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And Grant Thompson is off taking a nap. And I'm also Ted Bannock, and I love talking about cards. And joining us in this special guest episode is Brandon.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, wait. But
Did you have a whole thing planned?
No, but before we get to Brandon, we're putting you on the back burner. Ted, who do we have to get to before we get to Brandon?
Stop thanking the patrons, okay? I was just kidding.
You gotta thank them.
You gotta thank the patrons. So, Brandon, you understand?
They all
completely.
hate me now.
Yeah.
They all unsubscribed. Okay?
Yep. Right. Oh no, all the donations go by. So,
no, let's take a minute to thank our patrons, all of which are very cool people, actually, that we've met. I met a significant portion of them, so it's awesome.
Yes. So we have several patrons to thank, and so that's Daniel, David, Jason, Joseph, Justin, Kyle, Lewis, Mike, Dominic, Phil, Rob, Robert, and Sean. We got a boatload of patrons, and if you're interested in becoming a patron, please join us at patreon.com/cardtalk2018, and you too can be eligible to get some swag this year a little bit. We don't do it up like Cardboard of the Rings. We're a little bit smaller, but we try to really respect our Patreons. And speaking of Cardboard of the Rings, Ted, why don't you do the honors? You're the one that's been on their show. Who do we have joining us today?
Joining us is First Ager, Cardboard of the Rings host, Bike Spokes, Brandon.
Wait. Am I Bike Spokes Brandon because I said the term, or
You'll never know.
You guys name all your patrons every episode. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, they're awesome, so we have to try to do the best.
It's such a game-changing service, though. Like, I know before we were doing it, you have to pay for like hosting and all that kind of thing, so it helps so much. It's awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
Patrons are great.
And they are great. And that's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on the show, because we know how much you love the community and you do this. And there's probably no better way to thank our patrons than bringing on guests that really have made an impact in the community. Plus, we're doing this Couples February thing. And so in this Couples February thing, we're taking couples in and around the game. And there's no better way to kind of approach the wrap-up of the month than having you on the show, because, Brandon, you were one of the original couples of the game with you and Boromir. I mean, I've never seen a bromance so strong as the one that you had with Boromir, right?
It's the original love affair, man.
I know.
What a great card. I'm feeling all nostalgic now. I haven't talked about Tactics Boromir in a long time. It's like a big rush of emotion here, guys.
Oh, jeez. Well, don't hold back because of us. It's always good. The people, the viewers, love to watch us break down our guests. But before we get into the card, I think let's catch up a little bit with you. You've been, you were on the episode 150 of Cardboard of the Rings, and that's your baby, your podcast. But between episode 122, which was your last episode, and now, what have you been doing? Like, what does Brandon do with his time here?
Oh, well, one of the reasons I had to drop the cast, I've got two kids that are getting older, so they're 7 and 9 now. So 90% of the time I'm chasing them around. But other than that, in terms of like gaming, I don't know. I know if you listen to Cardboard of the Rings, you know that I love GMT games and the Commands and Colors series. So I'm still playing a lot of those, and I'm playing. There's this series, and if you're a gamer, check out the Coin series from GMT Game. It's Counterinsurgency series. It's so fun. Have you guys ever played? What is it called? It's like it was #1 on BGG forever. It's Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle.
Twilight Sparkle.
No, not Sparkle.
I think that's a brony
game,
term.
and so this is sort of the same sort of deal where it's like this global political struggle. Anyway, super game. So I've been playing that, and just keeping up with life. And I go to bed early too. That's another thing. I was getting older, so we would do these 3-hour podcasts, and oh man, by 10 o'clock I was yawning, and so I think it was just best if I have moved on and left it to those more spirited youth who have done a great job, really, really good job.
You become more Hobbit-like. Is that?
Yes. Now I just like quiet days and plants and other
Plants.
Like, they have a love for things that grow.
Yeah. The days of adventuring left behind.
Yeah. But I do like to occasionally go on these little, one night adventures doing that. So.
Yeah,
thanks for having me on too, guys. This is exciting for me.
Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time. It's we're reunited once again on a broadcasting platform.
Yep.
Right. Well, for those of you who don't know, when Brandon was host on episode 71, Brandon had Ted on his show, and that kind of introduced Ted to the whole Lord of the Rings podcasting. I don't know, whatever podcasting experience.
Yeah.
And so,
experience.
So Brandon, I guess I owe you a debt of gratitude for that a little bit.
There you go.
You brought my co-host.
That was a fun episode too. I know we got a ton of feedback because it ended up being like my memory's a little bit foggy on it, but I do remember it ended up kind of being like poor Ted versus the world, And so then there was people in the comments that were like rallying for Ted, and so it was a good episode. It got people talking, got people thinking, which was great.
Yeah,
and I had fun because I had my gang of bullies with me. I don't know.
I feel like at some point it wasn't you versus Ted. I feel like at some point everybody went over on Ted's side except for maybe Brian. And Brian was like, no, cards are going to stay and just be bad and never be played.
I do remember like a compromise was struck that there are situations for every card where it is playable, but Brian is Brian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's gonna take a stand for the sake of taking a stand. But yeah, it was good times. And now you got your own podcast, so it's fantastic.
Hey. Now I can talk about whatever card, whenever I want to talk about it.
That's
how good it is.
Talk about all those bad cards as much as you want. Any haters getting you down.
Yeah, that was really a really fun experience. So it was really great when I got. I think I just posted on Facebook, and then it was either you or it must have been you. Someone reached out to me, and after posting some comments and going back and forth, and you're like, "Come on and talk," and we did.
I think there was like a post that was generating a lot of interest. Right? I can't remember, and so it's kind of like, hey, let's have him hop on and defend his position, which was good.
Yeah,
Guests are fun, right?
Oh yeah, yep, exactly. So that was a great episode, and here we are now.
Yeah.
Have you kept in touch, Brandon, with your co-hosts? I mean, you really had a bunch of people that were on the show and were really good. So, back the original.
Is he like King of Australia now? Or
yeah, Jared. Well, the last time, like I mostly keep in touch with Jared through Facebook because now we have the huge time difference with him in Australia. And so he was posting pictures like of the wildfires, so that was a little bit intense, but he's good.
Wow. And
and I keep in touch with Andrew, who was my original partner in crime, my original co-host, because he and I worked together. And then Brian and Sean, Etienne, Chris, Chad, all these other guys. I still chat with them occasionally on Facebook, but woefully too infrequently. You know what I mean? It's like when we had the show, we had that connection. So that was one of the things when I was ending the show that was the toughest things to think about. Well, not ending the show, but ending my involvement on the show, because I knew there was, that was the core of our relationship. So that's been tough. But I'm intending to go out and visit Sean and Brian in Minnesota, so hopefully I can get that going.
If you go in October, there's a little event at the FFG Center called Con of the Rings in October.
Yes.
I'm sure that we wouldn't hate having you there. Ted may, but nobody else.
Of it. It looks like it's fabulous. So are you guys involved in organizing it, or
not in organizing, but
No, it's hosted by some other tremendously talented people, a group called Free Men of the North, some of which we've had on the show. And they organize and put the whole thing together and do a tremendous job.
That's fantastic. That's really good.
Yeah, they do an amazing job with everything there. Can I want to ask you a trivia question. Can I ask you a trivia
Okay.
question? So it's kind of Cardboard of the Rings related, but no harm if you don't get it right. And it's also
Okay.
related to the card that we're talking about tonight. Um, so you have always had a love affair with Tactics Boromir from the
Yes.
very get go, right? So much so that I went back and listened to some of the original the original podcasts. It was like episode 1.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that's been this week for my commute. So my question, Brandon, is do you remember about what episode that you remember that you said that Boromir is awesome and he's going to be your bro for the rest of the game?
Oh boy. Like I know that Gondorian fire was really when the fire was lit in my heart for that card. So I don't know, probably maybe like around episode 9-ish that I really, really started to get into it, but perhaps earlier.
Yeah, that was actually really good. There was a spoiler that FFG did, which they're famous for, right? Then they spoiled Boromir, and in that spoiler, you were talking about it, and the card hadn't been released because it came out in the Dead Marshes, and you were like, "But you can ready him for one threat. He's awesome." So
okay, there you go.
So episode 7, it was. It was.
Oh, episode 7. Okay,
Yeah,
there you go. I wasn't too far off.
No, you were pretty good. I mean, that was what 9 years ago. So who remembers anything that they did 9 years ago?
Oh my god, 9 years ago.
Yeah, I think you
That's
released.
funny. Time flies.
I think you released episode 7 in August of 2011. Because
Unreal.
I don't know if you remember, but at the very beginning there was the core set, and then there was some shipping issues. And then, so you did like 7 episodes on the core set.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember Hunt for Gollum still is like precious to me because I was like, thank God this game is actually moving forward. We're like, how can you talk about the core set that many times? Oh man, I can only imagine what those original episodes must have sounded like, especially after it was like core set part 6 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, Massing of Osgiliath came out, and you were very excited about hearing doing Massing Osgiliath. So, and then I guess as soon as they released, Hero Boromir, it was all downhill from there, right?
Totally agree.
No card could ever compare.
No. And then the errata. Do you guys respect the errata? I don't.
Well, what do you respect in the game?
That's a fair question. I just lump errata in with the other things. That
No. But yeah, I mean, if Caleb, who is in control of the game now, developing the game, says that the card needs to be changed, I guess that's what I have to do. I try to respect that.
Have you? I've never played with errata Boromir, nor will I ever. Is he still? He's still probably super powerful, even when he can only do it once per phase.
Once per phase, yeah.
Yeah, once per phase. Yeah, the errata is still he's still quite good even with it.
Right.
But I'm kind of on the same page with David, where I will I need to play things like officially. So I will follow all errata. I will follow all rules. And then maybe once I've done that, I'll go back and make changes. But I'm usually like, if this is how it was intended, I must do it.
I used to be that way, but it's very liberating just to do whatever the hell you want. You should try it sometime.
I'm a rule follower, Brandon.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
That generally makes for better gaming.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about the card, why don't we officially get into it? It's no secret here that we're going to be talking about Tactics Hero Boromir. But if you have the card there, could you read down through the card and tell us what he does and what his thing is?
Yes. I've actually got just to show the people on YouTube here the alt art one, which I think like no one's gonna believe me when I say I'm not biased on this, but I think it's like the best of all the alt arts. Like it's really incredible.
They put out an alt art Galadriel that I'm pretty pretty partial to. But
which I think I have that one, or I may have two. I don't know. My collection is in the worst possible shape, so at some point I should try and clean it up. Okay, Tactics Boromir. He has 11 starting threat. He has 1 willpower, 3 attack, and 2 defense. He is Boromir. His types are Gondor, Noble, and Warrior. Action, raise your threat by 1 to ready Boromir. Action, discard Boromir to deal 2 damage to each enemy engaged with a single player.
Brandon,
they very infrequently use
Brandon,
action.
Brandon,
Did I screw it up?
Can you reread his initial action?
Well, I don't know if you can see. I can barely see this damn card.
No.
Raise your threat by 1 to ready Boromir.
Limit once per phase.
No, it's not there.
That's not what it says.
That's not what it says.
It's literally not there, man.
It is. I'm just breaking your stones, man. So
now I'm looking twice. I'm like, is it?
It's not on the altar. Definitely not on the altar.
Wow, was the text always this small? Good lord.
No,
maybe.
the alt art text is small.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the alt art, because they give more room for the artwork.
I need like a jeweler's loom to read the text. You know that little eyepiece thing that they use?
Well, they released an attachment called Jeweler's Loop in the latest.
Is that what it's called, jeweler's loop?
Yeah. It allows you to ignore like any one errata text on a card. It's
okay.
Yeah. It's artwork by Brandon there.
What, this?
No, the Jeweler's Loop.
Oh, jeweler's loop.
Yeah.
This is I should explain to people why I have something so offensive on the back of this card.
Yeah.
Every year at
You
Gen
tell.
Con, I purchase like the most racy, tasteless sleeves for the entertainment of the people I'm playing with.
Just for the
Okay, so that's
entertainment of the
Boromir.
people. Wait. Do you only do it for the entertainment of the people you're playing with? Like, let's be honest.
Well,
Let's
it's
have an
actually
honest
mind games. When they're distracted by the beauty of the sleeves, they can't focus on the game. So that's my Star Wars Destiny trick.
Oh,
The Slave Leia sleeves I have were epic,
yeah.
and then I have some My Little Pony ones that Sean gave me.
I remember
for
that.
reasons
That was a phenomenal little thing that happened there.
Yes.
it was like quite an operation, and I can't believe that they pulled it off. Anyways, people who don't know Cardboard the Rings, they don't need to hear about that thing.
Yeah, well, I would say that probably Card Talk and Cardboard of the Rings has a lot of overlapping listeners. So, anyways, let's talk a little bit about Boromir. The reason why I asked you that trivia question, it was pretty obvious from the get-go for you that this card was going to be just crazy bonkers good. So
Yes.
What about the card really makes it that awesome for you? Like, what are your thoughts about the card, or can you go back and tell us what your initial thoughts about the card were?
Yeah, channel episode 7. Just rechannel it.
You know what it is? Like I'm not that good of a player. I don't know if you guys ever checked out our Twitch stream, but when I would play with the other guys from Cardboard of the Rings, there always is a ton of coaching going on. They're trying to tell me what to do. And when I would play with Andrew in real life, like our loss frequency was high, and the number of alternative universes that we spawned off were numerous. When we would just sort of like, oh no, next card from the encounter card. So one of the reasons I like it is it's a good sort of like dumb guy card. You know what I mean? You don't really have to think too elaborately. There's no mysterious combos that happen with Tactics Boromir. It's just put him down, start, wreck and shop. Like it's a pretty easy card to play. So I think Mitch, who was on Cardboard of the Rings, had produced a deck where it was Gondorian Fire and Blood of Numenor before Blood had even come out, which was kind of exciting. He used we used to play on Octagon, and he just took the preview art. And so then it was like I had a very important role in the game in terms of defending and attacking, while they were doing all their like fanciful questing and the less exciting parts of the game. You know what I mean? So Tactics Boromir, it was a perfect match. I wanted to just do combat. The card is like tailored for combat, so it was beautiful. Simple operation, great card.
That's phenomenal. And I guess the the beauty is to ready him. Like, you didn't have to do any of the fancy, crazy, unexpected courage or whatever readying. You just had to pay one threat, and he can just block the heck out of everything, right? Defend the heck out of it.
And threat was always a resource that I played fast and loose with. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And that came back to bite me many, many, many times. Turns out it actually is important. I've realized after all these years, but at the time it kind of felt free. I was like, oh my god, well, here we go. Just keep readying this card over and over and over. Yeah, it was good. And you know what? There's so many clutch plays where it's like you can't possibly fight your way out of the scenario unless you have a card as strong as Tactics Boromir. And then there was that card, maybe you guys can remind me, I can't remember what it was called, but it would draw all the enemies to you. And then you would literally be the hero of the game, right?
I want to say it's the Hammer Stroke.
Yes, the
I
Hammer
feel like,
Stroke.
yeah, that sounds...
I think it's the Hammer Stroke.
And you know what? That's another thing too. Like the Boromir combos weren't hard to figure out. You know, you didn't need to get like C-Stan or somebody to craft you a deck around Boromir. It's like, hey, that looks powerful, and it'd be even more powerful if I did it over and over and over again. So it's such a brilliant card, you know, in terms of bringing things together. And you could hand that deck to a new player too, and away they go. Like there's no deep secrets of the deck. You can just go for it.
Is that
Boromir's
deck
pretty shallow. He's just there's no depth to him.
What does he do? Kill stuff?
Yeah.
All right.
He actually
I can handle that.
When he's playing cards, he actually is using those card sleeves too, right? There's not much to him.
Yes. You know what I think too? There was one card, again, can't remember to save my life, but it allowed you to replace your willpower with your attack value. And so you'd have all like the LV questing, in and out of play, card drawing, fanciful decks. And then they would get stuck, and it's like, okay, hold on, I'll use Boromir to like mega quest. So, you know, it was also a really good utility deck that had so many heroic game saving plays at its disposal. You know the card I'm talking about? What is the one? I'm going to put you guys.
There's Grappling Hook.
Grappling Hook, yes.
Yeah, as an attachment. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
you have
Grappling Hook.
to discard it, and then also for battle questing, right? You might be thinking of battle questing. Battle questing. He could quest for 3 with his attack.
Can't do, man. I remember when I first saw Grappling Hook, though. I don't think maybe I was talking about how the combos are easy to envision, and I don't think I put it together. And I think I called it Crappling Hook, which I regret. It really is a good card.
And
I think probably I wanted to say Crappling Hook.
The meanest Tirith Lampright is actually doing really well now. Just so you know.
Get the hell out!
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I was gonna say, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a tiny little side story. I remember when FFG first started giving spoiler cards to like community organizations like podcasts and stuff, and Ian, who had his blog Tales from the Cards, right, was the first person in the community to get a spoiler card, and it was the meanest Tirith Lampright. And I remember everyone was so excited for him that he got this spoiler card, but then at the same time, right, the card was so crappy. It was so bad. And I remember poor Ian trying to spin it as like a pretty decent card on his blog, but oh god.
Yeah, that
tough stuff.
I think
that card's horrible.
Yeah.
What would you do with that card if someone handed it to you?
Right in the bike spokes. The bike sounds like it has a sweet motor.
Yeah, absolutely like, no use.
Lampright, it like protected you from surge or something. I can't remember what it did.
Yeah, it would. He's a 1-cost ally that would cancel surge if you could guess the surging card type. So like if So it's hard to nail, but satisfying if you do.
Consistent. And I remember his just base statistics, like his body was garbage too, right?
Yeah, he was like 1 cost with like 1 defense and 1 hit point or something like that. Like no other stats.
Oh god, the lampshite. You know what? You guys should have. I don't know if you've done it, but you should have a series of just. Well, you know what? It might make your bitter and awful and your audience upset, but it's fun to trash cards, eh? Like it's really, you should have like a series where you just go through and talk about the worst cards in the game. Have you already done that?
No. Well, here's the funny thing.
Well, we invited you on to talk about Boromir.
Yeah. I was going to say is that I think that at the very end of this episode, we'll ring the card, we'll rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, and I think that some of the community probably maybe doesn't love the way that we ring cards.
Really?
Yeah. Just because it's just really arbitrary,
Yeah.
Everybody
And
has
also,
a different.
our
system
ratings
for
too are all over the place. I'll rate cards on like just totally different ways.
Yeah, well, rating cards is a difficult thing because it's all situational, right? Like rating them in a vacuum is very. How do you do it, right?
Perhaps he's
But
learned
card like
after all
Jack
these years.
Well,
Clear, it's fantastic in essentially every situation. Like we've covered every situation. He attacks, he defends, he can quest. Really, best card.
best card ever.
Yeah.
Well, what else?
I think
is
that's
there?
a defensible
Like,
statement. I
yeah.
think it is a defensible statement that it is the best card ever. Well, maybe Steward of Gondor. That one's pretty bloody good too.
Yeah. Did you ever use Boromir Bomb? The damage to the deal 2 damage to. Each...
Oh, occasionally, mostly just to like for fun. You know what I mean? Like it really didn't make any sense to do, but it was splashy and exciting. Impress the ladies, but not really necessary.
It's fun to do like if you're on like the last turn or two, if you
Yeah.
know the games, and like I could just throw them away and kill these enemies. Like it is really fun to do.
Yeah, it's cool. But no, I didn't. Half the time there was probably scenarios where it would make a positive impact. I just wouldn't think to do it. You know what I mean? It's not in my heart to get rid of Boromir. That's insane.
So, Ted, you gotta go. I don't even know what to. This I'm half starstruck and half just like really like. It's just,
Well, and it's funny because we're having the whole couples February thing because it's like usually it's pairs of things, and
Which is a great
Brandon,
thing, by the way.
right, and just your love for the card is so it's like it's known just like about you. If you were to like talk about any other host, there's a couple people where like, yeah, you could name their favorite card, but if someone says like, what's Brandon's favorite card, you're like Boromir. Like they plainly know and state it.
Because it is real.
It's the love affair is real. I will say this as a shout out. So I was in Minnesota at the FFG Center playing just a couple of weeks ago. I was there as a teacher. I sometimes get to go to conferences. So I was at a conference and I was presenting in Minnesota, and I went to the FFG Center to play, and I was talking to John Rogers, who we've had on the show. You may know him as Peace and Thought, but he's been around for a long time. But he was like, I was talking to him about kind of couples February, and he said, you should have Brandon on the show, and you should have him talk about Boromir. Like that was his idea, and this was he didn't even know that I had this set up, and I kind of gave him a wink, and I said, well, just wait. So
That's funny.
So he was all in this. I mean, let's be real for a second though. Is who do you I know that you haven't played the game in a while, so I know that I'm asking you to remember, a while back, but like what do you pair with Boromir to make him shine even more, like to make this love affair even better?
Well, there's like the obvious ones that we've already mentioned, Gondorian Fire, Blood of Numenor, and then Grappling Hook, which are just like that's like the trifecta. And then it's nice to have Steward of Gondor, but you guys know how that goes, right? Everybody needs Steward of Gondor in their deck, so you can go with Horn or something to generate resources. And then I remember when I was last playing the game, I really loved the combination of Boromir and Galadriel. And then I would switch the third hero. Like I liked Aristor just because I like to churn through cards. But as it turned out, it really didn't matter who your other two heroes were because Boromir's carrying all the weight anyways. Eventually, I started to wise up. And there was, who was the Hobbit where he
Mary
like, reduces your threat or something? Yeah, Mary.
I remember
Sorry,
listening to your episode when you were reading Mary, and you're just like, is this card real? He's gonna pair so well with Boromir.
Yeah. Thank God there was other co-hosts on the show, because really all I ever looked at was the cards through the lens of how they were going to fit into my next Boromir deck. So, yeah, he was fantastic. What was his interaction like? You reduce your threat every time. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
it was
he had a response that when an enemy was revealed, you'd exhaust him and reduce your threat by the enemy's threat.
Oh, jeez, that
And
is really good.
Yeah, and there's plenty of 2-3 threat enemies. So every turn he could give you on average like a 2 reduction, which helps you, of course, offset Boromir's increase.
Yeah, so you could be even more careless with Boromir, which is what you want to do, right? Like that's what drives the Boromir deck. Fantastic. God, makes me want to break out the old deck, man. Good times.
Is that deck?
Yeah,
is that particular deck published someplace? Like, could we go to Rings DB and get it? I know that your Babes of Middle Earth deck is probably still there, but
very famous for, in terms of a deck that's fantastic. Right. But I think there is a build, because C-Stan would do a lot of the deck building, and Sean would do a huge amount of deck building. And Sean would he was kind of the guy who was best in terms of getting things ready for Twitch. And he also knew that I was the best at not being ready for Twitch. So he would set up the decks and get everything set up. I was terrible towards the end. You know what I mean? If I didn't decide to leave the show, I was probably going to get thrown off the show in terms of just being a bit of a diva. But Sean would produce the decks, and so yeah, I'm sure they're kicking around somewhere.
Huh. We'll have to.
I'd never be able to find them, though. I need Sean to find them.
Maybe this gives us a reason to reach out to Sean and see if he's still playing the game. And he
does still play.
He still does play. Okay.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, I loved once Mary came out. Then I think the 3 heroes that were dearest to my heart were Mary, Galadriel, and Boromir. I think that's the deck I played endlessly. I'm sure people who used to watch us on Twitch were super sick of seeing that deck. And then I would try a different deck, and it would fail. You know what I mean? I would never pilot it quite right. But I think that was kind of entertaining in a way for people to troll me to death about my terrible play.
Well, you don't have to be awesome at playing games in order to be in order to have a podcast. I mean, I'm
absolutely
living,
true.
I'm living proof, right? Like,
yeah.
You know,
you
Brandon,
can speak authoritatively on a subject and have no clue how to do it.
Right.
God bless the internet. It's
right.
Fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, Ted by far is probably the best player of this game I've ever met. So, I mean, he does amazing things.
Ah, David, now you're just sucking up.
Is it working?
Play a ton, Ted? How much do you guys play? Like I since I left the cast, it was an emotional thing to leave it. So I kind of had to just like set it all aside, because then, it'd be like,
quit
I'd
cold
start
turkey,
to regret leaving it and that sort of thing.
Right?
So I let it go completely. But how much do you guys play? Do you play like once or twice a week or more?
Ted and I never play, except when we meet live. Like, I can't get Octagon on my computer. I have a school-issued computer, and they don't let me download stuff.
Oh, lame. You need to find some IT dude to shove it on for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as games go, I usually get to a couple of games in a week, maybe like 3-4.
Oh, that's good.
I mean,
something like that.
I play the game alone often. I would say that I average, I'll play, if I sit down alone, I can play 4 or 5 games all by myself. But I hardly ever get to play with Ted. That's
Do you play true solo, or are you double hand, or
I'm a true solo player.
Man, yeah. I was so thrilled when the decks finally got good enough where you could true solo, because the management of 2 hands, no thanks.
It's fatiguing. Like, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's
enough.
You know what? Yeah, I was trying to see if the Boromir deck was maybe online. C-Stan does have a Boromir deck called C-Stan's Boromir deck, and it might be kind of like an updated version that runs Tactics Boromir, Galadriel, and Spirit Glorfindel.
What is Spirit Glory? Oh, he was the guy who had super low starting threat, right?
He
Yeah.
starts at 5, so your starting threat is 25 for that
Okay.
lineup.
Yeah.
But I feel like that card was a lot of people always wanted to play it, you know. So it was one of those hero conflict type cards. So I think I steered clear of that one
Yeah, I
because
would
we did
say
a lot
that-
of 4-player.
Yeah, when it came out, I would guess that was probably one of the most popular. Everybody was like 5 threat for 3 attack and 3 willpower. I'm in.
Oh yeah,
Like everybody just wanted to play it, especially with the Light of Valinor, and like it's nuts.
yeah.
But you had
Then
to play.
there was the other Glorfindel that I remember sucked and forever sucked.
that came out in the core set, the
Yeah,
one that heals you
It was-
for one
never
resource.
playable.
Never playable. Why not, Brandon?
No, I'm not going down this path.
Well,
But
you're on the show
I
with
remember-
Ted, right? Like Ted's the
Well, yeah,
advocate for
yeah.
playing any card.
Yeah,
No,
and
it's so bad I can barely even remember it. It was had some hideously high starting threat, and the statistics weren't great. And
Right. It did have 5 hit points, so that was pretty good.
yeah, he could sponge some injury.
Yeah. But back to let's get into some of this tactics. Let's continue with the tactics Boromir a little bit.
Okay.
I remember that you actually had Magali Villanueva on the show, right? And she did the alternate
Yes.
art version of the tactics Boromir card, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I've always wondered, was the alternate art version of Boromir the reason that you had Magali on the show?
No, we had like she was in a lot of people's opinions, I think, like one of the sort of like iconic artists that provided artwork for Lord of the Rings the card game. And a lot of people, like, it was the art that she did was their favorite, right? So it just seemed like a natural thing to have her on. She also did Leadership Boromir too, right? Which looks fantastic.
yeah. I think of all the versions of Boromir, even though his alt art is fantastic, I think his leadership art makes me play him.
Yes, it's so glittery and wonderful. I
He's
really
looking over. I don't know if he's at Osgiliath. I can't remember if he's in Gondor or Osgiliath, but he's like standing in front of the city, like
there's
taking-
flags. It's like a very noble, very inspiring piece of art.
mhm.
That was actually one of my favorite episodes, you know, like in terms of episodes where like I just got drawn into what we were doing. The interview with Magali was really, really a fun one because like I have zero artistic skill. I had no idea how it was done. I remember she kind of laughed when I was like, "What medium do you use?" Like, she's using the Photoshop or whatever, right? I'm like, what did I think? She was like,
She's using
oil-based painting? I don't know. But she was really fun. She was a nice lady. And I think we mentioned on the show that so she does this huge favor of coming on the show, and it was a long episode, so she just donates this huge chunk of time to us. And then mailed us these like large photo prints that she had signed in addition to that. So really just a wonderful person.
Wow, that's great. And she was living in France at
Yeah.
the time, I think, too, right?
Yeah, she was somewhere where the time was off. So it was difficult for us to get all coordinated. But I think, because we only ended up having like 2 of the then 4 co-hosts on with her because the timing was just so messed up. So yeah, that was fun.
So, have you played the other Boromirs when you were playing the game, and then decided that they were trash, or
Yeah,
did you not
yeah.
even go down that road? Did you not want to cheat on Tactics Boromir?
I did often feel dirty when I played anything but Tactics different Boromir. You know, I'd have to like turn the card over in my collection. Don't watch this. I did try them all, you know what I mean? Because like I do like Boromir as a character. Like he's absolutely one of my favorite characters in the Lord of the Rings universe. But none of them were. They were a little more finicky, right? And I didn't like finicky cards. Like the leadership one was pretty straightforward. He gave everybody the additional willpower, so that was nice. But it's more questing focused. Which...
so he gives +1 attack to Gondor characters.
Oh, did he give a +1 attack? Okay,
Yeah,
so...
but he needs the resource to do it. Was the requirement?
Yeah, so that was kind of fun. But then you'd need all these allies, and that one was pretty good. And then there was the other one where he was like the ally Boromir. I remember never super liking that one.
The art makes him look like he's in a wheelchair.
Yes, wheelchair Boromir.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Right.
did someone not preview that? I don't know. Yeah, so I liked the other ones. They're all very playable. I don't think they're unplayable, but when you're standing in the light of Tactics Boromir, it's gonna be a rough go for them.
Yeah, I mean, jeez, I mean, what else is there to say about the man, the myth, the legend, Boromir?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
well,
I'm so glad too. Like, imagine they had put such a fantastic card line on like a lame character. They really got it right in terms of taking one of the best characters and just making it the best card.
Yeah. His ability really hits. It's the murdered, right? Is the term?
Oh, so good. Yeah.
It really falls in line. I think they really nailed it with him with both of his abilities. Like, yeah, okay, you feel like you're playing him. Like you feel like this is right.
Yeah,
this is what he's meant to do.
So spot on, man. Every time he just gets back up and keeps battling, and then the great final gesture of heroism. Oh, it's a good card. Makes me want to go watch the movie too. My kids now watch it. I don't know if that's good parenting. They're
I was gonna say, did you grow out your hair and beard just for this episode? Because you're kind of rocking a Boromir look right now.
Yeah, I actually I've got a horn on as well.
you're just always paying tribute.
That's right.
You have a dad
People
that
don't
really,
know where I've
really
been
loves
the last
you.
couple of years. I've been becoming Boromir slowly, but steadily.
What's your relationship like with your dad and your brother?
Oh, it's good on my end. My brother, he's kind of glum. We sit down and enjoy cherry tomatoes together once in a while.
I feel like that's not the first time we've said that tonight at some point, right?
Well, we recorded. Yeah, we recorded an earlier episode where we brought up. We were talking about, I think, Denethor, and then we made the cherry tomato joke.
God, man, you have to. It's so gross. I remember we were watching Return of the King recently, and even my kids were like, "Ew." Like, yeah, it's gross. That guy's an awesome actor.
Well, I guess we could sit here all night and probably talk about Tactics Boromir, and probably
I know I could.
More importantly, we probably could just catch up with you because although I wasn't involved in the first age much, I definitely have a respect for what you did, and it's just really great to actually talk to you for the first time ever.
It's work.
Yeah. Well, now you guys know, right? It's not like a ton of work, but it is a little bit of work. But
sure,
it's a work of passion, right? It's fun. It's so fun at the end of the day, especially getting to know the community and getting to know people. I didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? I thought I would just kind of put this recording out into the abyss, and that's that. But I've got some close connections probably for life from it, so it's a lot of fun.
All of a sudden, people actually want to listen, and you're like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, panic.
Right.
Yeah.
So
then we had to actually try to be good, so that's why I started recruiting the other co-hosts.
Yeah.
We have more than 3 downloads. We gotta go.
Yeah.
Gotta get this.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what they're up to now. I wonder if they've cracked 1 million or whatever. But yeah, it was a surprising number of downloads.
Yeah.
For sure. I think it's mostly because we were first to market and there was a lot of excitement about the game. That helps too, right?
Right. Well, I think that, in an honest moment, you guys had some really good content that you put out there. You and the Grey Company really were the inspiration for what I do. That's for sure.
The next generation that came after you.
Yes. So, the later, better models that corrected all the mistakes. Right. You guys are like the Marvel champions of podcasting now, right? It's this more streamlined, user-friendly thing.
Right. So, what do you think, Ted? Should we ring this guy?
Let's ring. Let's put him in the ringer.
Put him in the ringer.
Be careful here, fellas.
Okay. Well, so, hold on 1 second. Okay. So, Brandon, just in case you are unfamiliar.
He's looking at you.
Okay, so
blowing that horn.
Just in case that Tactics Boromir doesn't know how we do this, or in case there's anybody out there that doesn't know, we always ring a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made.
Okay.
So, Ted, here's what I'll do. I will allow you to go. Well, actually, no, Brandon.
We have a guest,
We have
right?
a guest. We'll
guest.
get you're the
Yeah.
guest.
One.
Do you want? Do you want to go first, second, or third, Brandon, in your ring rating of Boromir?
Third, please.
You're gonna go last. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ted, do you want to?
I want to see what you guys say first.
Go ahead.
Sure. I get so we have to look at. I'm going to ring him on his post errata, just so we make that clear. I guess I could give two ratings. But if I were just to ring him in his current state, following the errata and stuff like that, he's still tremendously good. He's a solid hero, and even errating to once per phase, he has a lot of flexibility to give you one action out of every single phase. Not to mention take he can do like different tricks with like the action windows and like he's so flexible. So I'm gonna give him a 4 because he's tremendously good. If I were rating pre-errata Boromir, yeah, he'd probably be higher because he would be bonkers. But even with the errata, he's still strong, even though we now have like 100 different heroes to pick from. Like it's crazy that he's an early hero and still very good. He's still very flexible in the card pool.
You know what's really crazy? Giving him a 4, Ted. Not all that.
Uh-oh.
What have you ever given anything a 1? Just to give you some context here.
No, we've never rated a card a 1.
I have. We have 2 before Ted joined the show. So Hero Sam Gamgee from the Leadership Sphere was rated a 1, and Sneak Attack was rated a 1 as a card. And then recently Ted wasn't on the show, but we rated Feint, the avoid an attack from the core set. That was rated a 1. But we very rarely do that. But our guests come on the show and blow our wing rating right out of the water.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
Because, why are you going to come on the show? Unless you're John Meek. Do you know Electron John?
Yes, I do.
He came
Great
on
guy.
Yeah. He came on the show and he talked about Fatty Bulger as a card. And we agreed that he's probably not the best. So
we also Caleb gave a rating to Galadriel of Bee's Knees.
Yes. Wow, that's fair.
Right. So we have had 1s on the show, just as but anyways.
Okay.
So if I'm gonna ring him, I actually ringed him. Boromir was our 3rd show that we did. So way back when. So
what was your then and then what's your now if it's the same?
Back
Curious.
then was a 5, because when I ring a card, I'm thinking about building a deck that I'm going to play and how often do I reach for that card when I'm building the deck. And so Boromir is a good card, and I think he's better multiplayer. And I mean, Brandon, that's what you were saying. Like, you play with a multiplayer a lot, and he does a lot of different things for you. But I think he does one thing solo very well, and that's to attack. And I mean, he could take a defense for you, and that's very good, and you get some flexibility there. But I don't find myself reaching for him as a tactics card often when I'm trying to build a deck. So that's where I give him a 5. I'll probably modify that slightly to a 4, only because I have 100 plus more episodes under my belt in terms of rating. But so I'm going to agree with Ted about useful. I don't reach for him very often, so.
So you've gone from a 5 to a 4.
So
you got to keep producing episodes until you get to a 1.
Do you want to come back on the show in 2 years?
It is inevitable.
Right.
I'm actually going to change my rating to a 10 and throw him in the bike spokes.
Yeah. That's what he sounds really good as a motor. So, okay, Brandon. Brandon.
He blows his horn, and the horn just sounds like bike spokes.
Yes.
It sounds like a card in the...
So, Brandon, what do you think? What are you going to rate?
I think you guys made a huge mistake in your ratings.
Of course.
That's shockingly low. Shockingly.
Okay.
Well, I guess high in the case of your ringing scale.
Right. So what do you think?
1, man.
1?
For sure 1. This is the one card. Like, you play 100 games with a Boromir deck and then 100 other decks. That Boromir deck, people are looking at it more than any other one, man. It is so clutch. You guys, you know what? You just need a little bit more experience, more time with it. You will come to the same conclusion. I remember on the Twitch stream, these guys would be doing all this complicated, amazing stuff, and it looks like, these decks are very powerful. But then ultimately, at the end of the day, it really was the Boromir deck just mowing people down, and it's the key. Number one for sure.
So that's the one card to rule them all, huh?
Absolutely.
Okay. As we close the show, I just wanted to say, it's no joke that the community that grew around this game had some amazing roles to follow. A lot of people love the game, and that's a testament to the developers. Like Nate French was always nice, and Matt Newman and Caleb who come on the show like this. But Brandon, I think that I need to just make sure that I extend that to you as well, as the founder of the original podcast that hosted the show. There's a lot of different ways that people could take a podcast, and you took it in the direction of always being welcoming and joking and having a good time with people, as opposed to putting yourself on a pedestal and putting yourself above everything. So as I sit back and just as a fan of the game and a member of the community, I need to thank you for doing what you did originally with the game and taking it to a place where this community has grown and has kind of used you and the developers as a model for how to kind of behave in the game. So I just really want to thank you for that.
Well, you said it though. The community was so good. It was easy to kind of make the magic happen because the people were so great. Like you had the developers who were very available and open and willing to talk with the community, which was so cool. I remember when we first emailed Nate French to ask him to be on the show, the fact that he even replied, we were like, oh my God. And then it turns out these are just like normal down to earth guys. Like they were so chill. And then the community was so fabulous in terms of providing feedback and providing support. And it's very encouraging when you have such a good group of people that were participating in the show, like on our Facebook page and sending emails and that sort of thing. So it was really fun. It was really an honor. And I'm glad that there's a lot of people that are continuing to carry the torch, with you guys, and Cardboard the Ring still rolling strong. So it's good for the community.
It's definitely good. And I think that the community definitely was made a better place by Mr. Brandon of Cardboard of the Rings.
Thank you.
So we're going to wrap up this show. So Brandon, thank you again for being on the show. And maybe in another couple of years, we can come on the show and you can give us more reasons why to rate Boromir even lower than or higher or lower. What did we decide? Closer to a 1.
You can't even make sense of your own system.
More powerfully.
Right, more powerfully. So,
well, I was going to say I would be thrilled to come back on the show anytime you're talking about Tactics Boromir. If you want to, always ready to talk about that card.
Okay, great.
And thanks a lot for having me on, guys. I really do appreciate it, and continue to do the great work that you're doing in the community.
Thank you so much. So,
thank you.
Okay, everybody. Well, that's another episode of Card Talk. Join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a good night. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.